Well, in the past, and I've done this, you read then and say, well, what he's talking about is, again, just the eternal rest. And now he's tacked onto it this word Sabbath. He's talking about the eternal rest. And how we need to still be diligent to maintain what we've gained, and we'll get there. The problem with that is verse 10. For the one who has entered his rest has himself also rested from his works as God did his. Now think about that. If this is about maintaining what you've gained, then the last thing you would expect him to say is that that person has rested from their works. And the only way to really get around that, which takes quite a bit of gymnastics, if you ask me, is to say what he's saying is, for the one who has entered his rest, meaning that person has died and gone to heaven, has himself now, because of that, rested from his works. But again, as I said, that's doing some, I think, some pretty heavy gymnastics with the text. Or you end up on the side of the fag, right? The faith alone gospel, which takes this to mean, well, that's what he's saying there, is that you don't have to do anything, you just believe, right? That if you've really come to understand what God's done or Jesus has done with the new covenant, this text is telling you that you now rest from your works. Well, that completely destroys everything that we just saw, because the whole warning is based on the fact that you better get busy, right? It's all about you better not be disobedient like they were. You better remain faithful to maintain what you've gained. But if you understand it just as it sits, in light of what he said in 9, as truly the Sabbath, which what do you do on the Sabbath? But you rest from working. Now, all of a sudden, you understand it. So there remains a Sabbath. A Sabbath, in other words, the writer of Hebrews is saying, hey, don't get goofy with this thing. You see that you need to maintain this. You need to be faithful. And you can just hear some of the Jews who are listening to this and are reading this, and they're saying, yeah, I got it. We need to maintain. And he says, understand, our forefathers didn't do it. Yeah, I got that too. They weren't faithful, but I'm going to be faithful. And he says, well, wait a minute. Just let's think about this a little bit. There was a way in which they weren't faithful, among all the other things, and that was that they didn't keep the Sabbath. Understand that there remains one even now for you, new covenant Jews, under the new covenant. And what that looks like, the one who will enter ultimately the eternal rest. That person, the condition to entering there is that on those days, those Sabbaths, that he observes them rather than profaning them by doing what? Resting from his works, just as God did from his.